Save Unit 7, Solving Safety Problems with Solutions. In the last unit, we talked about ergonomic solutions for masons. Ergonomic solutions for masons have been around since the 1890s and Frank Gilbreth.
Frank Bunker Gilbreth was born in 1868 and died in 1924. He took his first step into the field of management in 1885 when, on his second day as an apprentice bricklayer, he questioned why he was being taught several different methods for laying bricks. His interest in finding the best method led to his development of motion and fatigue study. Motion study was first developed when it was applied to the world's oldest mechanical trade, bricklaying. The traditional method, even after 6,000 years, involved unnecessary stooping, walking, and reaching. Hod carriers still dumped the bricks, damaging them. The bricklayer then made a careful inspection of each brick in order to determine its best side before laying it. A 225-pound man bending to his shoe tops twice for each brick expends much more energy than in moving the 4.5-pound brick. He stoops once for the brick, then once again for the mortar. Excessive stooping was the fatiguing and unskilled part of the job and required most of the time. To eliminate waste motion, Gilbreth designed a non-stooping scaffolding platform and a one-motion grass packet. When the men worked on the wall, a lifting jack gradually raised the entire scaffold. This device, patented by Gilbreth in 1891, maintained the level of mortar and bricks at the most untiring height and close to the wall. By applying the Gilbreth system of motion analysis, the motions per brick were reduced from 18 to 5. The number of bricks laid per hour increased from 125 to 350, increasing productivity by nearly 200%. The most tiring part of the job had been the stooping, 250 times per hour. Under the new method, a man could lay more bricks standing in the least tiring position.
Not only do solutions improve efficiency, but they spare your body and keep you safe. Now let's talk about problem solving using some of the solutions you have learned about. This may look like a typical day on a work site, but what if you notice that something doesn't seem right? Something is not safe. What is going on here? If you saw this happening at a job site, what would you do? Problem-solving safety issues is kind of like solving a puzzle. You have to analyze the problem and imagine appropriate solutions before you act. Problem-solving is an important skill to use before you speak up. Rather than just complaining, you will be raising concerns and solutions that you've thought out before speaking up. Problem-solving is your pass to speak up. P is for problem. You must fully understand what you want to raise concerns about. A is for advice. Looking to others and for information may help. S and S are for safety and solution. Find your safety solution. What is the best result to make the job safer? Let's start with how you identify the problem when you feel unsafe. You're going to have to use all your knowledge and skill to get to the root of the problem. You need your technical expertise in masonry plus knowledge of workplace safety and health, ergonomics, and your rights as a worker. Key point: use your workplace knowledge. Let's look back at this video of the mason that you saw before. To practice identifying the safety problems with this task, we need to get to what we call the root cause of the hazard. So let's break this down and dig a little deeper to get to the root. There is more than one problem here, so we're going to discuss each problem. For each issue, let's brainstorm why the problem is happening. We have 3 problems to discuss. Why is he breathing in dust? Why is he in an awkward stooped posture? As you remember, this is a yellow zone posture. Why is his foot in danger by being close to the saw table? We identified and talked about the 3 issues and why they were happening. Spelling out the issues this way will help us solve our safety problem and come up with specific solution ideas. Sometimes a solution is not so apparent and you may need to get more information or advice. Let's learn some strategies to help us decide what would improve safety and what's the most viable solution. If you have several options, you need a strategy or plan to choose the best one. Just like specific plans for building an arch, you need a plan for how you are going to choose a solution. Let's quickly look back at our cutting block example. There are several solutions we can consider to control the dust. How would you decide what is best? What factors do you think you need to consider to make the best choice? The mason knows he can request a wet saw table for the project since he has to cut many blocks and the contractor has one. After asking his supervisor, he learned that water prevents the dust from going everywhere. He learned that a saw with dust collection would be harder to get and that respirators are uncomfortable and hot. So those 2 options are not always the best. Also, respirators are part of the Respiratory Protection Program, which requires fit testing, training, and medical evaluations. Knowing all this, he decides that his goal is to use a wet saw table. Let's cover some tips for figuring out a solution to your safety issue. These tips will help you plan. First, you need to consider if you need a short-term fix or longer-term solution. Just because a solution would be an immediate fix doesn't mean it's necessarily the best. In our example, what if our mason holds his breath while cutting the brick as a quick solution? This really is not advisable. You gotta breathe. Sometimes a short-term solution is okay when you have to wait to put a long-term solution into effect. If you can't fix something right away, make it a goal to reach for in the future. Plan ahead. Now let's talk about who has control. Some solutions you have more control over, such as work practices, while other solutions you can't do much about, yet. Even though you can't tell the contractor to get hydraulic scaffolding or a mortar mixer for the job, there's a good chance that someday you'll be a supervisor or masonry contractor. Many contractors started out as masons. So learning about all types of solutions, even the ones you can't control, is important. Let's look at some masonry solutions and consider who has control. Do you remember that not all solutions are equally effective? For example, it's better to have an engineering solution such as mast climbing scaffolding rather than rely on a work practice like squatting to pick up block. So consider the hierarchy of solutions before selecting one. Finally, before you select a solution, you need to think about what barriers you might face to put the solution in place. Barriers might be the cost, time, or training needed to implement the solution. Once you identify the barriers, you can see if they could be overcome easily, or you may need to select another solution. Let's quickly review everything that should go into your plan for solving your safety and ergonomic problems. First, the timing. Do you need a short-term solution or a long-term solution? Next, who has the control to get the solution to the job site or to the task? Then, consider how effective will the solution be. Consider engineering out the hazards if possible. Lastly, what are the barriers that would keep you from getting the solution in place? Let's turn to your workbook to plan for an ergonomic solution. Remember, problem solving is your pass to speak up. P is for problem. Understand the problem that you want to raise concerns about. A is for advice. Look to others and for information. S and S is for safety and solution. Find your safety solution. Also remember that there are 4 main risk factors that can result in work-related ergonomic-type strain-sprain injuries: heavy lifting, awkward postures, repetitive activities, and prolonged postures. You want to reduce your risk of ergonomic injuries using your pass to speak up. Now you've reached the end of your SAVE training. In the ergonomics unit, you learned about your anatomy and how cumulative trauma results in injuries. You know the risk factors for strains and sprains and other types of injuries. In the Safety Voice units, you review your rights and responsibilities, learned how to communicate effectively, and how to problem solve and resolve conflicts. Putting all of this to use as you learn your trade will improve your health and safety. Be proactive and be a safety leader.